Actually, I just had a cute baby. Unlike my sister, who's infertile, I managed to get pregnant just fine. My sister, who had eloped with a man a few years ago, had since become completely out of touch. That man was my former fiancé. Suddenly, she reached out with news of her childbirth. Her typical behavior of adding unnecessary remarks hasn't changed. This is because, in the past, she often made sarcastic comments to me. Women who are infertile don't deserve to get married. You should just stay lonely and single forever. I was looked down upon by my sister because I couldn't easily conceive a child with my then fiancé. But at that time, I had no idea that my fiancé and sister were secretly nurturing their love. Soon after, my sister and my fiancé eloped, disappearing from my life. The shock and sadness of that time are something my sister, who easily stole my fiancé, could never understand. Now, 4 years later, she suddenly contacted me. I am Natalie. I've been a freelance photographer for 5 years. This year, I turned 33. My work income is finally stable, but I'm still in a state where I can't let my guard down. 4 years ago, when I was at the lowest point in my life due to a shocking event, my husband Kenneth reached out to me. They say love wounds heal intentionally, and now the sadness of being betrayed by my former fiancé has completely healed. And to think that even my own sister did the same. In other words, she knew he was my fiancé and still took him away. The fact that two people I trusted betrayed me at the same time was enough to mentally corner me while I was still in my 20s. My former fiancé Robert and I were high school classmates. I remember him being engrossed in baseball in high school, seemingly distant from romance. At our coming-of-age ceremony, he confessed that he had liked me since high school and asked me out on our way home from the reunion. I was surprised, but accepted, and we had a smooth relationship for nearly 10 years. However, just before our wedding, Robert and my sister Victoria's affair came to light. It started when I found her lipstick in the passenger seat of Robert's car. The day before, my sister had bragged to me about buying a new lipstick, probably leaving it intentionally for me to find. Before that, there were many suspicious things, like her joining our dates coincidentally, and Robert and Victoria's replies to my messages coming simultaneously. Thinking they were mocking me behind my back, I couldn't stop crying in frustration. Far from apologizing. You couldn't have kids with Robert, right? It's sad that you wasted his time. An infertile woman doesn't deserve to marry. You should stay lonely and single forever. My sister taunted. Indeed, Robert and I struggled to conceive. Though we were still engaged, we both wanted children soon, and tried multiple times unsuccessfully. I continued to visit the hospital, but Robert grew tired of it and stopped going. During that time, he developed a relationship with my sister. Robert assumed the infertility issue was mine and discussed it with my sister. He often praised her as cute, perhaps targeting her from the beginning. Realizing his feelings, my sister met him several times secretly. Robert said he would have chosen me over you if he met me first. I'm younger and cuter, not infertile, and have a better personality. Are you okay with that? Maybe you should break up soon. My sister, insensitive and cruel, tortured me with her words. She couldn't stand being inferior to me in academics or sports, so she'd been like a devil to me since childhood. The fact that my beloved was secretly seeing my sister touched me with the same hands and wasn't serious about our future along with many other things overwhelmed me to the point of being unable to do anything. As for our parents, they always favored Victoria, who was blessed with good looks. Mom, a former reader model in her 20s with great beauty and style, was adored by Dad, who did whatever Mom wanted and treated me coldly, just like her. Though there was no physical abuse, the blatant difference in their attitudes towards us was heart-wrenching. So when I complained about my sister stealing my fiancé, I knew our parents wouldn't scold Victoria. Now we hardly communicate, and I don't plan to involve them in my life anymore. While I was down, it seems my sister and her partner proceeded with their wedding preparations and disappeared. Since then, their contact information has changed, and they became unreachable. Meanwhile, I worked hard as a photographer. I met my husband. Kenneth, who married me a year ago, financially and emotionally rescued me when I was still freelancing.
Natalie, I love your photos the most.
He said the words I needed to hear, helping me recover from despair. He supported me through the toughest time of my life, so even though we were newlyweds, I trust him wholeheartedly. We clash in work, but I love how he keeps it separate from our private life. While enjoying a smooth marriage and nearly forgetting the past, one day an unknown number called my phone. "Hello, it's Victoria. Surprised your number hasn't changed, big sis." It was my sister. It had been years, and her voice seemed calmer than before, which was somewhat reassuring. But her character remained unchanged, dodging all my questions. I asked repeatedly where she had been and what she'd been doing, but Victoria only talked about what she wanted to say, ending with, "I had a baby. Unlike you, I got pregnant easily. I thought I'd let you know since we're family. Come visit with a gift. I want to meet." She unilaterally gave me her address and date. Though I decided not to get involved, I reflexively took notes. I felt pathetic, but wondered if I should show up for my pregnant sister. After the call, I contemplated and decided to discuss it with Kenneth, who knew the situation. After hearing everything, he pondered and then surprised me with his words.
"I'll come too. It's a chance to meet your sister, and I'd like to greet her. Actually, there's something I want to check."
I was astonished at what he wanted to verify. Though it wasn't confirmed, the possibility made me agree to his coming along. The address was about an hour's drive from our place. On the day, Kenneth had something to attend to, so I went ahead planning to meet her. Driving there, I resolved not to get upset by whatever my sister said. She's been a queen bee since childhood due to our parents' upbringing. Such people don't change overnight, so I've learned to deal with her. As I've grown older, I've found the strength to not let every little thing affect me. You can't sustain yourself if you get emotional about every single thing. Her place was a fancy high-rise apartment. I took the elevator to the given floor and rang the doorbell. "Ding dong!" Victoria, holding a baby and in high spirits, answered immediately. At first glance, I knew the baby wasn't my ex-fiancé's child. The baby had blue eyes and light yellow hair. "Welcome, come on in. This is my husband, Robert. Oh, I guess I didn't need to introduce him, huh? Sorry about that time." "It's in the past. It doesn't matter." I calmly replied, not to be swept up by her carefree demeanor. Robert, slightly awkward, pacified my sister while inviting me in. In the living room, "Here, this." I handed her a gift bag, and her face changed. "This is what I wanted. You're surprisingly thoughtful." She tore open the wrapping on the spot, then, seeing the content, grimaced. "What's this color? It's ugly. You have bad taste." She twisted her mouth and carelessly dropped the box on the floor. Robert hurried to pick it up, but I wasn't bothered. "Seems you came alone. Are you still single, sis?" "What?" "I didn't say you had to come alone. You could have brought your husband. You seem still single." "No, I got married a year ago." There was a brief pause, then she taunted further. "Really? Congratulations. But I bet he's unattractive, right? Not earning enough to live in a big high-rise like this. You're over 30 without money, and having kids must be tough. Plus, a husband who lets his wife carry such ugly luggage must have bad taste. What does your husband do?" My sister, gleeful at having someone to belittle, relentlessly looked down on me. Each time, Robert would quietly say,
Well, well.
Or,
Calm down.
His attempts at soothing seemed almost comical. So I stood there emotionless. Then the doorbell rang.
Ding dong.
Who's that? Go check, will you? Victoria commanded Robert, pointing with her chin while holding the baby, and sent him to the door. Shortly after, Robert returned with someone. It was my husband. Victoria, surprised by the tall man's arrival, scrutinized my husband, who wore sunglasses and a hat. Is this guy your husband, sis? Nice to meet you, but isn't it a bit rude to be late? My husband responded to her sarcasm by removing his accessories.
Nice to meet you. Sorry for being late. I'm Natalie's husband, Kenneth.
Seeing my husband's face, Victoria started trembling. I had an inkling this would happen. Kenneth is a popular model for a top women's magazine in the country. Lately, he's been appearing more in other media, increasing his personal fame.
Wow, Natalie's husband is Kenneth?
Robert exclaimed loudly. My husband gave him a stern look.
Please refrain from casually using my wife's name. I'm afraid of what kind of person you are, so mind your words.
Robert turned pale, but Victoria looked unconvinced. With a resentful glare, she asked me, How did you catch such a wonderful man? You two seem mismatched. I honestly explained that we met at a magazine shoot where I was working as a photographer. Still unsatisfied, she changed the subject. But weren't you infertile, sis? Does your husband know that? I have this cute baby, but you'll never have one. Poor husband. Her face turned red in her triumphant moment. Look at this face. Looks just like Grandpa, right? You must be jealous, she touted. She was so desperate that her spit flew my way, which was unpleasant. Actually, about that, there's something I haven't told you, Victoria. I began quietly. We're not blood related to Grandpa. What? Her disbelief was understandable. Our maternal grandfather was Russian. However, he was our grandmother's second husband and not related to Mom or us. Our real grandfather had died of illness when Mom was young, but this fact was kept from Victoria, who was close to our step-grandfather and had a volatile temperament. So both Victoria and I are pure Americans. It's strange for a child with Russian features to be born to us. Pointing this out, Victoria's face turned blue. At the same time, Robert's face reddened.
What do you mean? So this isn't my child? Explain.
That's ridiculous. My sister is just making things up. Call Mom, she'll tell you. Victoria protested desperately. Then my husband took out his phone and started dialing. Victoria regained her smug look as if saying, See? Suddenly, there was a noise from the entrance, drawing everyone's attention. Before anyone could check, a young man with Russian features burst in. Alexander! Victoria shouted, then quickly covered her mouth. But it was too late.
Who are you? Don't tell me you're...
Robert raised his arm at Victoria. My husband quickly intervened.
I understand how you feel, but the baby is frightened. Let's calm down and talk.
Robert lowered his arm and sat on the sofa, looking defeated. We all sat nearby, beginning our discussion. Kenneth had been close friends with the model Alexander for about 10 years. About 6 months ago, Alexander confided in Kenneth that he might have been a victim of marriage fraud. Kenneth had a hunch he'd seen the woman in a photo Alexander showed him before. Remembering her from a family photo I had shown him when we started dating, Kenneth, reluctant to accept it, decided to verify the truth for his friend's sake. Caught off guard by her earlier slip, Victoria had no good excuse and looked down for a while, eventually as if giving up. Yes, the baby isn't Robert's, she murmured.
Why did you betray me? Cheating is the worst thing you could do,
Robert shouted. I thought it was ironic he could be so angry after doing the same to me, but at that moment, it didn't matter. My strong-willed sister retorted to his yelling. It's your fault we couldn't have kids. I kept quiet about it, but what's with that attitude? Indeed, neither my sister nor I could have children with Robert because the issue was with him. However, my sister had mocked me relentlessly as an infertile woman, so I guess she couldn't admit it. Desperate for a child, my sister used a matching site to meet Alexander, hoping for a cute, half-faced baby. She convinced Robert that the baby had inherited our grandfather's traits. Logically, it's a stretch to think a baby with Russian features would suddenly be born to an American-faced sister and her American mother. Moreover, it seems she made marriage-like statements to Alexander when they met. Alexander, believing they were dating with marriage in mind, cooperated with her desire for a child. At that time, Alexander was also suspicious because his sister had stipulated they only go on dates for a few hours during the day, and that he could not leave the house on weekends due to family commitments. He even lent her money, despite suspecting something off due to her conditions about meeting during the day and never on weekends.
Alexander is deeply hurt by this. We're going to see a lawyer about it,
my husband said. At that, my sister and her husband stood up. Stop it. I didn't mean to deceive. It's all because of my husband's issues. It's not my fault.
Cheating and then saying that? You did this behind my back. It's got nothing to do with me. Cut the crap already.
The two started a disgraceful argument, oblivious to their child nearby. Feeling sorry for the baby, I picked him up from the bed and moved to another room. From the next room, I faintly heard my husband's voice.
4 years ago, you ran off with Natalie's sister, and now you say it's none of your business? Face reality. A husband shares responsibility for his foolish wife's actions.
Robert seemed cowed by my husband's towering presence and didn't talk back.
Also, I turned down a commercial offer from your company recently because of you.
I couldn't see him, but I imagined Robert was devastated. He was ambitious, and this would surely affect his career and morale. Leaving the confused and depressed couple, we left the house with Alexander. Worried about the baby, but knowing my sister who loves children would take care of him, my husband went with Alexander to the lawyer's office. The lawyer was sympathetic, and they smoothly proceeded with the procedures. They decided to sue my sister for marriage fraud, asking for a settlement and monthly visitation rights for the child.
I have no feelings for Victoria anymore, but I still love the child.
Alexander said sadly, a look I still remember. Half a year later, Alexander confirmed he was receiving the settlement on time. My sister was working full-time, having put the child in daycare. She occasionally sent letters with photos of the child who was growing up. Alexander seemed relieved to see him growing bigger day by day. Meanwhile, Robert's career seemed to have taken a hit due to Kenneth's influence. I'm not sure how much my husband shared about my situation, but Robert's messages showed he was struggling. I ignored them, of course. I'm neither his mom nor his fiancé anymore. If he persists, I'll contact his company myself. The couple is apparently in a cold war, but surprisingly, no divorce talks. They probably stay together for their cute child. Like my sister, Robert also loves children. Even if not blood-related, it's hard to let go of such feelings. As for us, a long-awaited baby is on its way. We've always valued our time together, even amidst busy schedules. I plan to continue photography until the birth, but I'll decide with my husband and our baby. As our family grows, I cherish each day with optimism and joy.